Make sure to subscribe to the Volume YouTube channel so you can catch all of our shows and get what everybody wants, more of me. I've had a crappy week. I've had a crappy year. I've said I had the best college year of my life. I'm having a terrible NFL year, probably around 35-40%. So I'm going to go with my strongest bets. One of the games I like is Falcons +9 at the 49ers. So San Francisco is in this space now where they're fighting for their life. Every game has sort of a playoff feel to it. Teams don't tend to play their great games after a road overtime game. Few extra hits. Atlanta is capable of moving the ball. 9 points, believe it or not, still in 2021 is a ton. I do think this Atlanta team is subtly getting better. San Francisco, if you look at their games ahead of the schedule, you've got some big rivalry games in division. I take Atlanta +9 here. Sharp or square?
Sharp. Over inflation. Okay. The Niners playing great. Jimmy G throwing from the pocket. Kyle Shanahan talking about they made some mistakes playing Trey Lance, took him out of the rhythm. One play sets up the next play, winning the way they did against a Bengals team that had just beaten up on the Steelers. It's why we liked the Niners last week. But this is peak Niners right now, right? They are a team that is ascending. I think the Falcons are not a very good team. But the Niners are still not a team that should be favored by 9, in some places 9.5 points, when most wise guys have this at 7. The one thing is that is a little scary I mentioned the power ratings, right? The wise guys have this game at 7. It's now up to 9, 9.5 in some places. There has been very little resistance against the bookmakers moving the number, meaning they moved it from 7 to 7.5, 8, 8.5, and it's been a pretty steady rise. You haven't seen the wise guys come in and take the Falcons in numbers big enough to move the number back down. So it's not like, oh my God, I'm in love with the Falcons. It's, yeah, the Falcons are the right side because the Niners are overvalued.
I'm going to take, this is a weird one, the Jaguars -4 hosting the Texans. There's a weird psychological truth. When an unpopular coach is let go, players tend to play over their head in the following couple of weeks. Darren Bevel's a more likable guy. He'll take over. We know the Texans here. They want the number 1 pick in this draft. They have no value to win it. Wouldn't be surprised if marginally dinged up players sit. I'm going to take the Jaguars to pick up a win, a more buoyant locker room, a happier locker room, players trying to prove a point. Sharp or square?
So it's sharp only because of what you said. The challenge is I probably wouldn't bet it at this number. It was sharper when it was 4, which is what it was when the news came out and what it was earlier in the week. At 5, you're just sort of losing the best of the number. It's a dead number. It's not like it's a key number where we talk about 3 and 4 and 7 and 10 games that mathematically land more often on those numbers. So if you feel compelled because of everything you just said, which is all accurate, it is 100% true. That is not a sort of emotional play. That is backed up by the math. You're taking a little bit of a risk because you could have gotten this at 4 and now you're getting it at 5.
I tend to be very poor, betting football this year, but when games are pick 'em 1, my history is not great. My gut is telling me Broncos -1.5 hosting the Bengals is the side. Sharp or square?
Sharp. In fact, so sharp that this line opened at 1.5. It moved up to 2. Now it's at 2.5. I think the Bengals are the Broncos are the right side until it gets to 3. And then I think we've sort of found the peak of the value. A short home favorite is a field goal. You just want to be on the other side of that, meaning the lower side of that. What's interesting is that like the wise guys were on the Broncos early in the week. The line did not budge. It just sat at 1.5, which told you the bookmakers were still very comfortable with the public coming in on Cincy. When it finally did bump up, it's because you got to close to 70% of the money, meaning 70% of the money largely coming in from professional bettors, finally getting on Denver, but you still got 63% of tickets on Cincy. So when I mention money on one side, tickets on the other side, preponderance of money usually means professionals on that side.
I'm going to take Washington plus 4.5 at Philadelphia. And the reason being this, Philadelphia.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
You're telling me right now, don't do it.
Don't do it. Washington has 18 players on the COVID list.
Okay, I'll get rid of it. I'll write it off.
Yeah. Walk away. If anything, the line is now Eagles -7. The Eagles were the sharp side at 4.5. The wise guys love the Eagles at 4.5 because their rushing game is so freaking good. It's one of the 2 best rushing games in the NFL. You don't know what you're getting in the defensive line for Washington. This game's at 7, and I still know wise guys who are betting it at Eagles -7.
All right, I'm going to take the Ravens +4 hosting Green Bay. Green Bay is off a divisional rival, big game, big TV game. Baltimore is top 5 in defense, top 5 in third down defense, top 5 in red zone defense. Green Bay settles for some field goals. Green Bay wins close. I take the Ravens sharp or square.
Sharp play. This is the definition of professional betting. The bookmakers, they are begging you to bet the Ravens. They know every bet is going to flow in on Green Bay. 90% of the bets right now are flowing in on Green Bay. You don't know if Lamar Jackson is playing. The Ravens are struggling. So you're betting 2 things if you're a sharp, right? One, you are betting regression for the Packers. They have been playing at an out of this world level against the spread, even on Sunday night, right? They were 12.5-point favorites on Sunday night. They were down 10-0. When they were down 10-0, the live line on this game was Packers -3. I bet the Packers -3. A buddy of mine called me as it got close to halftime. I think at that point, the Packers maybe were down 24-14 or something like that. And he's like, I had the Packers -12.5 in my survivor league in my pool this week. I don't think I'm going to win it. I'm like, guy, Packers are going to win this game going away. I'm going to bed. And the Packers did just that. They covered the 12.5. They covered every live line. It was no problem. So number 1, you're betting a little bit of regression against a very good defense. 2, you're betting that Lamar Jackson will play and that you're getting the top of the market on the Ravens as home dogs. Because as soon as it's announced that he is, the line's going to come down.
It's interesting. The line tells me to take the Colts -2.5 with the Patriots. That's what it tells me to do. And so my gut feeling, because outside of this year, I've hit about 55, 56% of my games in pros. So I would take the Colts -2.5 because the line's telling me to take that side. I don't know if it's sharp or square, but could you explain which side is sharp and why so?
It's the Colts. And this line opened at -1. It is the definition of a pros Joe's game. So when I just talked about the Broncos and the Bengals, I said money on the Broncos, bets on the Bengals. Bets come in $10 increments. It's the squares who say, I'm putting $10 on this time. And then another square comes in, I'm putting $20. So you don't always get money and bets equal to each other. And that's how books break these things down by percentages. The money is indicative of here's 10 dimes. A dime is worth $1,000 when bettors are putting that money down, right? That's the vernacular. A nickel is $500. A dime is $1,000. Here's 10 dimes. Here's 2 nickels. Here's whatever it is. The big money is coming in on the Colts here. The bets are coming in on the Patriots. That's all you need to know. If you want to know the reasons why, you've got a dominant run team in the Colts, number 1 in yards per carry, number 2 in overall rushing yards. By the way, the Eagles, number 1 in overall rushing yards, number 2 in yards per carry. The Colts are playing a middling to bottom third in the league rush defense. The wise guys are looking at who the Patriots have beaten and the circumstances in which they've won, and they just don't respect it. And they feel like their line is massively overinflated right now. So if you were getting the Colts at less than a field goal, you have to take them.
All right, give me a game or two that I've missed that you like and the wise guys like.
All right. So we didn't talk about the Steelers very much. And they're about 1.5 right now, 1.5 point underdogs. They're a team that a lot of wise guys I know are betting to win outright. Typical rah-rah Mike Tomlin spot. We've talked all season long about how good he is when he is as an underdog against a team with a better record. That's this spot. And look at the Titans. Like, they don't look good without Derrick Henry. They are missing A.J. Brown. Julio Jones has been inconsistent. They're really down to second, third string players when it comes to skill positions on the depth chart, right? And so they scored 20 against the Jags, a Jags team that clearly was imploding, and they were still in it for most of the game. They scored 13 against Houston and lost. They scored 13 against New England. It's going to be very hard for this team to score. Another one, majority of the bets coming in on the Titans, majority of the money coming in on the Steelers. One more I'll give you. Can I interest you in Seattle plus 4.5 against the Rams?
Yeah, no, I looked at that, and here's why. First of all, this division's weird. McVay owns Cliff Kingsbury. Shanahan owns McVay. Arizona, when they were bad, played Seattle close and San Francisco close. This is a division that generally you take the points, and you're coming off a perfect game by the Rams. I mean, they literally played perfect football. Now they've got all sorts of COVID disruptions. Seattle's probably the side, right?
Yeah. So this game on Tuesday was as high as Rams -7. And it got
what's it at now?
It's at 4.5.
4.5.
Bet down to 4.5. It's scary to do it because you're not getting the best of the number, right? So if this game lands on 6 and you bet Seattle at 4.5, you're going to be like, oh man, I could have had Seattle at +6. I missed the best of the number. Why, or +7? I missed the best of the number. Why did I do it? The truth is, most wise guys have this power rated around 3 or 3.5. So you're still getting 1.5 points of value. And in any sort of scenario, if I'm looking at this without knowing that the best of the number was out there, I'm betting the Seahawks at 4.5, no questions asked. So the scary thing is knowing that you're not getting the best of the number. You'll watch this game, they lose by 6, and you're like, why did I not just follow my rules? But Seattle at +4.5 is the right side.